All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to scoot forward as much as you can and to speak as much in the microphone as you can, okay?
Okay.
All right, can you start off by stating your name, please?
Emile Konig.
Is it okay if I call you Emile for the rest of my questions today?
It is.
Okay. Emile, what do you do for work?
I work for Maui Health
Maui Health.
as a clerk.
As a clerk, you said? And how long have you been doing that?
About 2 months now.
And where do you live?
Kahului, Maui.
Is that at 19 Pu'u'ehu Place?
Correct.
Who do you live with?
With my stepmother and my 2 brothers.
Your stepmother, who is that?
Arielle Konig.
Are you related to any person involved in this case, Emile?
I am.
Okay. Who are you related to?
The defendant.
Is that Gerhardt Konig?
Correct.
And who is Gerhardt Konig to you?
My father.
If you were to see him again, would you be able to recognize him?
I could.
We'll stipulate to identification.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll just move on then. All right. Emile, just over a year ago, on the morning of March 24th, 2025, where were you?
I was at home.
Normally, who lives in that house with you? Or on that date, who normally lived in that house with you?
My dad, my stepmom, 2 little brothers.
On the morning of March 24th, 2025, was your dad and your stepmom home?
No.
Do you know where they were that day?
Oahu, here.
They were on Oahu?
Mhm.
Do you know why the defendant and Arielle were visiting Oahu?
For Arielle's birthday.
Do you know when Arielle's birthday is?
The March 24th.
So, was anybody else staying at the house in Kahului with you on that morning?
Yes. Babysitter. For the little kids.
Got it. On the morning of March 24th, 2025, did you receive any calls from either Arielle or the defendant?
I did.
Okay. And which was it?
From the defendant.
Who contacted who?
Defendant contacted me.
What type of call was it?
A FaceTime call.
When you say FaceTime call, is that on the Apple iPhone?
Correct.
Was this call a FaceTime voice call or a FaceTime video call?
FaceTime video call.
How many times or how many calls were there from the defendant to you on March 24th, 2025?
2.
And what times were the 2 calls at?
I couldn't recall exactly.
Did you provide a statement to a Maui detective
I did.
regarding this incident? Okay, regarding those calls?
Yes.
And in that statement, did you tell the detective what time those calls were?
Yes, I did.
Would seeing that statement help you refresh your recollection as to when those 2 calls were?
It would.
Okay. I'll pull a page number here. Okay. I'm going to approach with what's been marked as State's Exhibit 170. Page number 3 and page number 4. Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Okay. Emile, could you quickly read pages 3 and 4 of this document? And when you're done reading, just look up, okay? Is your recollection refreshed as to when those 2 calls were?
It is.
Okay. I'm going to retrieve the exhibit, and I'm going to ask you the same question again, okay? All right. I'm going to retrieve Exhibit 170 from you. And Emile, what time were those 2 video FaceTime calls on March 24th, 2025?
The first one was at 10:42 a.m. and the second one was at 11:46 a.m.
I'm going to ask you about the call from 10:42 a.m. first, okay? All right. Where were you when you got the FaceTime video call at 10:42 a.m.?
At home.
That's the same address we talked about earlier.
Correct.
What did you see on the other side of the screen when you picked up that call?
I saw the defendant.
Can you describe the defendant as you saw him on that call?
Wearing sunglasses, dry fit shirt. That's all I saw.
Did you see the area that the defendant was in?
Outside.
And did the defendant tell you anything during that call?
Yes.
What did the defendant tell you during that call as close to word for word as you can remember.
That he would not be making it back to Maui and to take good care of the younger kids, and that Ari, my stepmom, had been cheating on him, and that he tried to kill her.
Okay. That's a lot, but I'm going to break that down a little bit. You said the defendant told you he tried to kill Arielle. Is that right?
Correct.
Did he tell you what happened to Arielle?
He did not.
Okay. Did he tell you where she went?
No.
Did the defendant tell you why he tried to kill Arielle?
No.
During this 10:42 a.m. call, did the defendant tell you anything about what he planned to do next?
During that call, the next plan that he said was to jump off the cliff.
And how did you react to hearing that?
Told him not to.
How did you react to the defendant telling you he tried to kill Arielle?
I don't remember what I said.
Do you recall what the defendant told you after he said he tried to kill Arielle?
Not directly after.
Okay. Did he say where Arielle went?
No, just away.
What did he say about Arielle and away?
He said that she had gotten away, and that was all I heard about her location.
During this first call at 10:42 a.m., did you ask the defendant any questions yourself?
Yes. I asked what was on his shirt, because it looked like I saw splatters of something on his shirt, and he said, oh, it's just her, meaning Ari's blood.
Okay. So far you've told us that the defendant told you he tried to kill Arielle, that Arielle got away, that Arielle was cheating on him, that he planned to jump, and that the blood on the shirt he's told you was Arielle's. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Did I miss anything so far?
No.
Okay. Did he tell you anything else during this call at 10:42 a.m.?
No.
All right. So, Emile, after you get this FaceTime call and after the defendant tells you these things, what did you do?
I went over to my grandparents' house, which is Arielle's parents.
Okay.
Walked over to their house, told them what had happened.
How far away is your grandparents' house away from the Oahu place address you mentioned earlier?
It's like a minute or so walk.
And could you tell us your grandparents' names?
Judith and Peter Mast.
Which of your grandparents did you tell about the call first?
They were both there, so both of them.
What happened after you told Judith and Peter Mast about this 10:42 a.m. call?
The next notable thing is they received a phone call from, I believe it was Queen's Hospital, one of the hospitals here.
Later on that day, did you tell anybody else what the defendant told you?
My mom.
Who's your mom?
Jessie Patelare.
Okay. Did you at some point also tell the police what happened that day?
I did.
All right. Do you know where your grandparents ended up going after you told them about this call?
Yeah, here.
They came to Oahu?
Correct.
Okay. All right. You said that there was a second call at 11:46. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. The second call, was this a FaceTime call as well?
Yes.
Okay. And just audio or audio and video?
Audio and video.
Did you pick up the call?
I did.
When you picked up this second call at 11:46, what did you see on the screen?
I saw the defendant.
Okay. And can you describe any background that you saw on the scene, if you remember?
Just trees, rocks, the sky. That was it.
During this second phone call at 11:46, what did the defendant tell you, if anything?
He asked me if I had told anybody, and I said yes, and I told him who I had told. And then he said that he was just going to jump, and said that a couple times.
Okay. To be super exact here, Emile, who did you tell the defendant that you told?
I told the defendant that I told my grandparents and my mother.
Okay. So you told him that you told Peter, Judy, and Jesse.
Correct.
Okay. So after the defendant told you he was going to jump a couple times during the second call, how did you respond?
Same way as before. Said not to. I don't know.
You told the defendant not to jump.
Right.
Okay. How did the second call end?
With him saying, with the defendant saying, I'm going to go before the police catch me.
Did he tell you he was going to hang up? Do you remember that? I'm sorry.
Objection leading. Sustained.
Bad question. Go ahead. Right. Sorry. I just want to clarify, Emile, but the last thing you told me about the police. What exactly did the defendant tell you about the police?
Asked and answered. Overruled.
Could you clarify what the defendant told you about the police?
That he was, that the police was looking for him. He didn't want to be found.
Right. Did the defendant tell you anything else about his state of mind or what he was thinking?
He said he was at the end of his rope.
Anything else you can remember about that?
Thought about suicide for the last couple months leading, or for the months leading to the 24th of.
For both of these calls we've been talking about, who was the caller?
The defendant.
So at either call, were you the one to dial him up?
No.
All right, Emile, overall, did you choose to get involved in this?
I did not.
During either call, did the defendant say anything about self-defense?
No.
Did the defendant say anything about Arielle attacking him?
No.
Overall, between both calls, did the defendant tell you what the reason was he tried to kill Arielle?
Other than this is.
Asked and answered.
Other than the previously stated him thinking she was cheating. Didn't say anything other than that.
All right. And Emile, overall, how are you feeling after these events on March 24th, 2025?
Objection irrelevant. Sustained.
All right. Did you stay on Maui after this happened?
I did not.
Okay. And where did you go?
I went to Pittsburgh.
And why did you go to Pittsburgh?
My mom lives there.
So did you go to Pittsburgh to be with your mom?
Correct.
Okay. One moment, Emile. Okay, Emile, thank you for answering my questions. I have no further questions at this time.
Cross-examination. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Good afternoon, Emile. I'm Tommy. I have some questions for you. I'm going to try to not keep it. I'll try to keep it not too long. Okay, I know it's not easy to be here. I just want to begin by asking you a little bit more about the first call on the mountain, okay? And I want to ask you about before the call. Before that first call, at I think you said 10:42, it was a pretty normal day, yes?
Correct.
You knew that your dad and Arielle were on a trip to Oahu, yes?
Correct.
And you knew that they were on a hike that morning, correct?
I did.
And part of how you knew they were on a hike is because about 30 minutes or so before the call, they, meaning your dad and Arielle, were sending the family photos of the views from the hike, correct?
Correct.
So you guys had like a family group text or Snapchat or something like that?
Yes.
Who was on that?
I believe just me, my dad, Arielle, and it might have just been those three.
Okay.
I can't tell you exactly.
Okay. But you were on it, and they were your dad was sending photos of them on the hike, yes?
Correct.
Letting you know where they were, right? Yes?
No.
Well, I mean, just that they were on a hike, yes?
That they were on a hike, yes, not letting me know where they were.
Well, yeah, I just meant like showing you pictures of the hike they were on. Maybe
Okay.
that's a better way to write it. Is that right? They were
Yes.
sending you pictures of the hike they were on, yes?
Yes.
And at least at that time, everything seemed normal to you, correct?
Correct.
There was no reason to be concerned at that time, correct?
Correct.
Now you get this call, 10:42, and he's telling you, amongst other things, that he said he's not going to make it back. Yes,
Correct.
and like he was saying goodbye to you. Yes,
Correct.
and you quickly realize that something's wrong, right?
Yes.
You don't know exactly what's going on, but he's also telling you that he's going to jump and commit suicide. Correct?
Correct.
And from what he was, saying, and from what you, and acting the way, what you could gather, you could tell that there was a lot going on in his head. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. You could tell that your dad was distressed when he was talking to you. Yes?
No.
You remember, you gave later the day of these calls, you talked to the detective on Maui. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And you remember telling the detective that your dad sounded like he was kind of distressed? Trying to stay calm, but kind of distressed? Remember saying that to the detective?
No.
Okay. Would seeing the transcript of the interview with the detective help to refresh your memory of what you told the detective?
Yes.
Okay. This is 170, page 4. Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. So, Emile, I'm going to show you this transcript. If you can just read lines 14 and 15, well, if you wanted to start from lines 8 and read down to lines 15 and just read it to yourself and let me know when you're done. Okay. You remember saying that to the detective?
Yes.
But as you sit here today, you don't have a recollection of him sounding distressed. Is that right?
Didn't sound distressed.
Okay. But you did tell the detective it sounded like he was kind of distressed, right?
And then I said afterwards he sounded calm.
Yeah. You said it sounded like he was kind of distressed, but trying to stay calm. And he did sound calm. That's what you said, right?
Correct.
Kind of distressed, but trying to stay calm, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Now, he's talking to you, sounds kind of distressed, trying to stay calm, and you said also at some point said something about he seemed like he was at the end of his rope. Is that right?
Yes. That is what he said.
Now the first call, Emile, when your dad is having this first call with you, from what it was on a FaceTime, right?
Correct.
And there was video, right?
Yes.
So you could see him and kind of, whatever was in the camera behind him, right?
Right.
And he's having this call with you. He's right on the edge of what looked like a steep cliff, correct?
Yes.
And he's telling you he was going to jump, yes?
Yes.
And did you assume that where he was talking to you at was where the incident with him and Arielle took place? Generally?
I wasn't aware. I wasn't thinking about that.
Okay. But it looked like he was in a steep place that kind of was high, like you had to scale on rocks to get to it, correct?
Correct.
You see blood on your dad's shirt, yes?
Correct.
And he tells you that this was Arielle's blood, yes?
Yes.
And he told you that he was explaining to you about how Arielle had been cheating on him for a couple of months, yes?
Yes.
And he told you that the blood was from her head, correct?
Correct.
And half an hour earlier, everything seemed fine to you, right?
Yes.
Now you're hearing this. You see the blood. You see the steep cliff. He's telling you he's going to jump. And I'm sure it was a pretty emotional, upsetting call, yes?
Yes.
And it was also a little confusing to you. You're trying to kind of piece together and make sense of what happened, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And also trying to convince him not to jump, correct?
Correct.
This was on FaceTime and so it was on speakerphone, correct?
Correct. Correct.
After the first call, you then go to Judy and Pete's house, yes?
Yes.
And that's Arielle's parents' house, yes?
Yes.
But you call them your grandparents, correct?
Yes.
You also went to Judy and Pete's house with your girlfriend, right?
Yes.
Is that still your girlfriend?
No.
Okay, your girlfriend at the time, correct?
Yes.
Then maybe about an hour later, your dad calls you again. Is that right?
Yes.
And you guys are talking, and he tells you, well, he brought it up and asked, and you said, yeah, I told Judy and Pete, and then he starts saying, okay, I'm gonna jump then, or something like that. Is that right?
Yes.
And then he said he needed to go so the police wouldn't find him, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, he was telling you he wanted to jump and kill himself, and he wanted to go so the police wouldn't find him. That's what he was saying, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And, after these understandably difficult and emotional calls, later that day, the detectives from Maui contact you, correct?
Yes.
And at least according to the interview started at 2:27 p.m., correct? Would seeing the transcript help you remember that?
It would.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. Again, 170. So, Emile, if you just read that, this is the start of the interview. Okay, read it to yourself. Let me know when you're done.
Yep.
All right. So, the interview started at 2:27 p.m. later that day, correct?
Correct.
And these were not Honolulu Police Department detectives, but Maui Police Department detectives, correct?
As far as I know.
Okay. And, you were able to look on your phone later. Well, you were able to look on your phone and tell the detectives the exact timing of the calls. And that's why you were able to say the first call was 10:42 a.m. and the second call was 11:46 a.m., right?
Yes.
So the interviews with the detectives is at 2:30 or 2:27. So about 4 hours after the 10:42 call and about 3 hours after the 11:46 call, right? The interview with the detective,
Yes.
roughly. And, obviously you didn't record the call with your dad when you guys were having them. You're just listening to him and talking to him about not jumping, right?
Correct.
And you didn't write down any notes after the call, right after, did you?
Correct.
Okay.
I did not.
But you tried your best, 3 to 4 hours later, to describe the call you had with your dad to the detectives, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And, today, for example, you were asked by Mr. Gardner, after he was talking to you about jumping, you were asked, what did you say back to him? And I think you said, I don't remember what I said right after that. You remember saying that just a little while ago?
Yes.
Okay. So as you see there today, there's parts of the exact wording and timing of what was said that you don't quite remember exactly verbatim, word for word, correct?
Yes.
And for example, you were asked by Mr. Gardner about, what he said after a certain point. And there are things that you don't recall exactly what your dad said after certain parts of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you tried your best to explain to the detectives what you understood your dad to have been saying, correct?
Yes.
But to be clear, it wasn't like an exact word for word, verbatim of the entire conversation, but you did your best, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For example, in an effort to do your best to explain to the detectives on Maui what happened, you initially told the detectives that your dad told you he tried to kill Arielle by pushing her off a cliff. You remember initially saying that to the detective?
Yes.
Okay. And that was what you had kind of assumed, given the things that he told you and where he was on the cliff. That's what you assumed that he meant, right? At least when you said that to the detective, right?
Can you repeat that question?
So when you initially told the detective, my dad told me he tried to kill Arielle by pushing her off a cliff, that's what you assumed your dad had meant, correct? When he said that, you assumed your dad meant that he had tried to. Well, let me phrase it this way. You remember telling the detective initially that your dad told you he tried to kill Arielle by pushing her off a cliff. You remember telling the detective that?
Yes.
Okay. But later on in the conversation, in the interview, when a detective asked you about that, you clarified and you said, The part about pushing her off the cliff was what you assumed he meant, not what he had actually said, correct?
Yes, correct.
And then when the prosecutor asked you questions about it, you said at some point he said something about she got away, right? Something like that?
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone tell you about the two witnesses that had testified that when she was moving away from him, he didn't try to stop her? Did anyone tell you that?
Can you repeat that?
Did anyone tell you that about how the witnesses that were there testified when when she was moving away from him, he didn't try to stop her?
At what point?
Can we approach?
No. Over.
Did anybody share that information with you?
I don't understand the question.
Okay. You were asked by Mr. Gardner about how after the incident you flew to Pittsburgh to be with your mom, Jessica. You remember that?
Yes.
And was it later that night?
Yes.
Okay. But you did return to live on Maui sometime thereafter?
Yes.
Maybe in a few weeks? How long were you in Pittsburgh? A couple weeks?
Couple weeks. I couldn't tell you the exact date.
Okay. But, within a month you were back on Maui.
Correct.
And you, at the time, you had moved to Maui with your dad and Arielle when you were in high school, yes?
Yes.
And that was something that you chose to do, right?
Yes.
Okay. You were in Pittsburgh with where your dad was and your mom, Jessica, was, correct?
Yes.
And you chose to move to Maui to be with your dad and Arielle, yes?
Yes.
And so by the time we get to 2025, how long had you been on Maui, roughly?
2 years at that point.
Okay. You had a girlfriend at the time, yes?
I did.
You had made friends on Maui, yes?
I did.
Your two younger brothers were there, yes?
Yes.
You had a job on Maui in March of 2025?
I did.
What kind of job?
I worked at Chick-fil-A
Okay.
at the time.
Were you going to school?
I was not.
Okay. And you liked it on Maui, right?
Yes.
Okay. So your options were to stay in Pittsburgh with your mom. You could have done that, right?
Yes.
Jessica, right? If you could have stayed in Pittsburgh with her if you chose to, right?
Correct.
Or you could come back to Maui, where your friends were and your girlfriend was, but to do that you would have to live with Arielle, right? To come back to Maui, you could come back to Maui and live with Arielle, right?
It was an option, yes.
Yeah, it was an option. And over the last year, since this incident, you have continued to live with Arielle, correct?
Yes.
You also would see Arielle's parents, Judy and Pete, regularly over the last year, correct?
Correct.
And you refer to them as your grandparents, yes?
Yes.
And they came with you to court today, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And over the last year, though, you've limited your contact with your dad's side of the family, correct? You haven't seen them much, right?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. Your grandparents, you haven't seen them much in the last year, have you? Or talked to them much?
I have done both of those things.
How often have you seen them?
Probably seen them
Since the incident. Since
the incident 2 or 3 times.
Okay. The most recent time was when they were going to come to see you play roller hockey on the mainland, right?
Yes.
Okay. And where was that?
Irvine.
And when was that? Roughly.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. I mean, it was in 2025?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it was 2026.
I'm sorry. I meant that's what I meant. Sorry.
It was 2026.
It was in 2026?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're into roller hockey. You played a lot.
Yeah.
And you traveled to California earlier this year for a tournament, right?
I did.
Your grandma and grandpa, your dad's parents were going to meet you in Irvine to watch some of your games, right?
Yep.
And when they got there, Arielle's parents, Judy and Pete, had traveled with you up there, right?
Yes.
And you have not spoken to your dad since the incident, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Emile. That's all the questions I have for you.
You read it.
Right. Emile, one of the things that you were just asked about on cross-examination was the fact that you didn't tell the detective on Maui that the defendant told you that Arielle got away. Is that right?
I didn't ask that.
Sorry?
I didn't ask that.
Is my memory wrong?
Ask the question.
Well, can we approach?
You were asked about on cross-examination this being a confusing FaceTime call. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were clarify more for us right here, Emile. Was there any confusion about the defendant telling you he tried to kill Arielle?
Can you reword that?
Sure. Did you have any confusion about that statement by the defendant?
Was I confused at all? Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me. Is there any confusion in your mind about the defendant making that statement that he tried to kill Arielle
Now?
in general?
Yes.
Okay, could you explain?
I didn't expect it.
I'm sorry. I think I'm phrasing my questions poorly, Emile. Is there any doubt in your mind about the defendant telling you he tried to kill Arielle?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any recross based on what was asked on your right?
No, thank you, Emile.
All right.